Welcome to Talking with the Experts. This is where we discuss great ideas to take your business to the next level. How do we know these ideas work? Well, it's because we're talking with business owners who are using these ideas. Business owners who have years of experience and expertise. All things business by business owners for business owners. And now, here is your host, Rose Davidson.
Hi, I'm Rose Davidson from Talking with the Experts. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Global Glamping Charities for their valued support. Global Glamping Charities, solving homelessness in all its forms. Reach out to them at globalglamping.org.
Talking with the Experts.
Humble curiosity makes true leadership shine. In episode 458, Chrissy McGarry explains to us why it's okay not to know everything.
Male or female, I think there are parts of us that might be more feminine or masculine or how we might behave. And so instead of altering personality, trying to figure out what are those things that are a part of you and just letting those parts constantly shine and evolve as you continue to develop the relationships. At least for me, the best way that I have been able to maneuver in predominantly male environment is just developing personal relationships with each of the individuals that I work with and trying to find those few things where we can relate. And sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's books, podcasts, maybe it's similar interest, or maybe it's completely different interests and something that I've never thought that I would be interested in. And, then I'm able to ask questions and extract more and then get some of that in return, right? So
Talking with the Experts.
Hello, welcome to Talking with the Experts. I'm your host, Rose Davidson from rosedavidson.com. Talking with the Experts is about all things business by business owners for business owners. You can find it on all good podcasting streaming platforms and on YouTube. And today my guest is Chrissy McGarry. And Chris is going to be chatting with us about Lead It Better Than You Found It. Now, throughout her career, Chrissy's always been a little bit curious about what makes an outstanding leader and what makes a great person, and it's specifically herself. And her own mentors and mishaps have shaped her leadership style, which looks like empowering her teammates and challenging them to reach their full potential. She's found that investing in her own personal growth is critical to becoming the best person that her team needs to thrive and to deliver outcomes, because the truth is, whether it's day 7 or 700 on the job, a great leader never stops learning and adapting. And you have to treat your first day like it was your last and your last day like it was your first. You need to stay humble. And Christy and I were talking a little bit before we came on that leadership styles have changed in the recent times because, there's more hybrid work and countries are adopting 4-day work weeks. So we're going to touch on that a little bit. Chrissy, welcome for joining me today, and thank you so much for being here.
thank you for having me, Rose.
So what's a little bit of your background? How did you become doing what you're doing?
Yeah, so about 4.5 years ago is when I started with Second Front Systems, which is a national security defense tech firm. And initially, I started out as the VP of Business Development. And then, throughout time, eventually made it to the COO role. Always, working to remove the friction and enabling, identifying those enablers and those force multipliers across the organization. So there's always been opportunities these past 4.5 years specifically where I have had to evaluate the problems and the risks that I foresaw ahead of us and trying to orient ourselves to continue to grow and do better and be better and scale. So prior to my days at Second Front, though, I was in the beverage industry for about 5.5 years with Red Bull and then E&J Gallo Winery. It was from the beverage industry that I made the transition into tech with Motorola Solutions and Salesforce. So it's been, over 12 years now that I've been working with various organizations to help grow and scale the sales, marketing, and management capabilities.
Wow, what a diverse career path you've had.
It is one indeed.
Yeah, so I guess overall, with all those different organizations, how have you found your leadership style?
Yeah, there's a couple of different things. I guess way back in the day, it all started. I had my very first interview with Red Bull and I completely failed it. I went in cold and unprepared, and I thought I could answer questions on the fly without prepping for anything. And I was wrong. The interview did not go very well. Nothing was tracking, and ended up not getting that position. So even talking about it to this day, I get a little bit of a pit in my stomach because I'm embarrassed by it. And that's not how I expected it to all go down, because that's not a true reflection of how I am. So it was from that point forward that I promised myself that I would always come very prepared for whatever it is that I was doing, whether it was doing my research, taking a studied approach. But that was one very pivotal thing that drove me to always want to show up prepared and to be better than the day before for myself, which in turn obviously impacts others. So I'd say that has always stuck with me. And then, fast forwarding that, there's a story I always tell about one of my very first bosses when I was at E&J Gallo Winery. We were getting up very early in the morning and throwing bottles of wine to the grocery store shelves, right? So here I am living in Southern California. It's 5:30 a.m. and my boss comes to check in with me early in the morning, and I'm quite disheveled. And she just smiles kindly and hands me a tube of lip gloss. She's like, "Here, Chrissy, put this on, you'll feel better." And it was truly a gesture of calling me up that I had never experienced. Someone who personally just wanted me to do better for myself, which in turn would be best for my team, my retailers, etc. And that showing up and feeling good about how prepared you came and how ready you are to tackle the day does in fact carry over into your work and your performance. So I would say those two. And then thirdly, the last thing that's developed me as a leader, the one that I didn't know would constantly be challenging me and changing how I might do things because of the constant adjusting and pivoting, is becoming a mother. So I have two little boys. I have a 4.5-year-old and a 19-month-old. And so it's been very humbling to have them show me new ways of how to lead, right? Because they emulate, just like my people that work with me, how I'm feeling that day, right? And they pick up on phrases that I use, and they look to me to be able to absorb the shock waves of those unexpected things that might come through, how I might keep my calm, or at what points in time I might need to be more stern. And, when we let, them fall and get back up versus constantly helping and course correcting. So I would say that's the one that definitely keeps me on my toes.
Yeah, you said that we need to keep ourselves humble, and humble curiosity makes true leaderships shine through. So how can we be humbly curious?
So always trying to take a step back, take a deep breath when you're assessing a situation, and think through what questions you might ask so you can better understand the why. That will enable you to maybe think through a different perspective that you might have not approached before. And it truly enables you to oscillate outward and then drive back inward, so that you're constantly assessing all of the moving pieces all at once, while also staying focused and honed in on that particular situation that might be going down at hand. And by remaining curious in that way, it enables you to be a little bit more authentic with who you are, because you're taking it from an empathetic approach maybe, and then also giving you the opportunity to remain as candid as possible through that genuine interest of wanting to just understand better.
So how do you find working in a male-dominated industry?
Yeah, it's awesome. I know that might sound crazy, but for me, I think a lot of times it I get that question a lot, and I think it's because people might think I find it frustrating, or I look at it as, oh, there's not enough women at the table or things like that, which, to be quite honest, isn't the case. When I look around, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of opportunity here. I can wiggle in and try to make some room and bring some others along. So for me, I try to always approach things with a positive mindset, or perspective paradigm, whatever, however you want to look at it. Because then if you look at things with that positive approach and with the idea that there's opportunity, I think you'll also feel that on the receiving end when you come to the table and want to join in on conversations or be a part of the crew. So for me, not to say that it hasn't been challenging by any means, because it has, but for me, it's always been something that I've been drawn towards, and something that I've found to be, an opportunity and a position for myself to level up constantly.
I used to work in a male dominated industry as well some years ago, and I found it a little bit challenging because I was supposed to be the feminine, and and I mean, I started off being quite feminine, and then I changed to be more masculine, and they didn't like that. They wanted me to
Yeah.
go back to the feminine thing, and I thought, no, I just wanted to fit in. So, I changed my personality basically. And that's not really the way to do it. You should, now that I've grown up, you shouldn't be changing your personality to fit in a male dominated
No,
thing.
I think some of it for me has been, so I grew up with three older brothers and I have a younger sister as well. But looking up to my three older brothers my entire life, and still to this day, there's always been a part of me, yes, that has, maybe if I just became more masculine. But what I found in my years of experience of wanting to hang around them and play with them, I recognize, male or female, I think there are parts of us that might be more feminine or masculine, or how we might behave. And so instead of altering personality, trying to figure out what are those things that are a part of you, and just letting those parts constantly shine and evolve as you continue to develop the relationships. At least for me, the best way that I've been able to maneuver in predominantly male environment is just developing personal relationships with each of the individuals that I work with, and trying to find those few things where we can relate. And sometimes it's kids, sometimes it's books, podcasts, maybe it's similar interest, or maybe it's completely different interests and something that I've never thought that I would be interested in. And, then I'm able to ask questions and extract more, and then get some of that in return. Right. So I think not only, back to what you had asked me a couple of minutes ago about the leadership qualities of asking questions, I think alongside that comes the desire to develop more sound and grounded relationships as well, right? Trying to really find those things that you might connect on with other individuals.
Yeah, I always used to make everything a competition. So if they could climb a rope ladder, I could do it better. And I did it when I was like 7.5 months pregnant on the side of a ship. I used to work for customs, and we used to board ships down the river, and we'd be on a moving ferry while the ship was moving. And I was 7.5 months pregnant, went up this rope ladder up the captain nearly had a fit. Pregnant women aren't allowed on my ship.
Oh, my word.
Go away. Yeah, so it became a competition for me to make sure that I could always, outdo the boys or the men in thing. And really, that's not the way to be, because that doesn't win you friends or influence anyone, that's for sure.
Yeah, it could definitely, there's always good to have a little healthy competition, or as one of my coworkers says, there's goodness in some friction, and some restriction, because it shifts people's mindsets to to want to think a little bit more creatively or strategically when in certain situations. But I could see why that could also, if you focus too much on that, it could become detrimental or more of a challenge than it's meant to be, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. I had all sorts of nicknames. And some of them weren't very pleasant.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I know. I just used to take it with a grain of salt, because honestly, if they didn't like me, that was their issue, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess, getting back to leadership, and especially in a male-dominated environment, how can you use the feminine of you and then bring in the masculine, so that your leadership style is not laughed at and thinking, she's just a woman, I'm not going to listen to her?
Oh, I get it all the time. So I've been told, right? So I've been told I have that warm, friendly, I'm going to take care of you, motherly instinct. And that's never, more of the feminine side. And that's never going to change, right? I am a mother. I have 2 young boys. But I also, a lot of my friends here will joke, they call me Major McGarry, which is hilarious, because before they all knew that I was in the industry that I'm in, there's this side of me that is a little bit more regimented, strict, direct, etc. So what's been great is I've been able to continue to be me as much as I possibly can. But at certain points of time where I do need to maybe exercise that masculine, whether it's to, I don't know, get more attention or get the seriousness of what needs to come across, and not have it be as maybe light or loving, so to speak. I guess I dole out the tough love. So I don't think I ever outweigh one or the other. I think I've somehow created this harmony of both in what I do. Specifically with my team too. I mean, they'll tell you there's every now and then there's the masculine will be a little bit more pronounced, but I would say they're kind of meshed together in some way, shape, or form. So I guess it's kind of
using
how
that tough love, though, that's often necessary in a leadership role. And as much as people don't like the tough love, sometimes it's needed when someone's not performing properly, or
right.
or a task needs to be completed. So how do you get around the tough love?
Yeah. One of the ways that I can be able to dole out that tough love, right, is because I've already developed sound relationships with the individual. So because I've already spent time one-on-one with my people, or cross-functional team members, whenever I do come forth and need to be more candid with whether it's feedback or an approach on why I want to take an approach for a particular reason, or the reasoning behind, I always say things like, there's a method to my madness. You have to trust me on this. The ability for them to trust or to handle what I am saying or what is being received. I think a lot of it comes from the fact that I've already developed that relationship prior to. So while most might find it to be super challenging, for whatever reason, it has more or less become more regular and natural for me to just be upfront right out of the gates, because I hope at this point in time in my career, those that have worked with me will see that I'm trying to run and operate at the best interests of the organization and them as an individual. And if they think otherwise, I ask them to give me that feedback and to have that loop also come back to me in return as a good litmus check, so to speak, because it might not always come off that way, but I tried to communicate that is always the impetus or the behind the scenes work that's going down. So as long as I can communicate that out of the gates, develop a sound relationship, and ensure that there's that ability to come back and ask me questions too, right? Or challenge me or say, hey, when you said that, it seemed like this, or whatever it might be. Then we're able to, really get to the crux of what we're trying to solve for.
Yeah, I like the fact that you have the one-on-one conversations with your team members and people that, stakeholders within the organization, because a lot of leaders don't do that. They don't get to know their team members at all. And, and they give the tough love and then wonder why people are pushing back at them, because, they're obviously doing it, not at either at the right time, or and they're not giving the right tough love to the right person. They're choosing to use strategies on one person that might work on one person, but they blanket it across the whole organization or the whole team. So I like the fact that you actually know who your team members are. Their personalities, and that's really important as a leader, to be able to know the personalities of each member.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's definitely important. One of the things we do on our team is every 2 weeks we do these walk and talks, which is really fun, because the number one rule of walk and talks with the team is we can't talk about anything related to work. So we have to have, it kind of forces more of those informal personal conversations. And sometimes they're silly, right? Someone was going for a walk the other day and we started talking about donuts. So they walked into the donut store and I think they went and got one or ordered one right when they got home. So it's fun. We try to make it light and that time to more or less check out, but to still be with one another, to get to know each other, develop a more personal and sound relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really, really important. Have your once end of week drinks or coffees or whatever it is that you choose to do. I think they're really, really important to and don't discuss work, because you've had a chance to talk about it all week, and so leave this time to be personal time and personal discussions. I guess another, if you were to give 3 strategies on how best to be a leader, especially a female leader, in a male dominated environment, how would you what would you give?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost for me, definitely your health and your family come first, because if you're not good in that personal arena, it can get really challenging. And one of the things for me that just naturally happened, and I decided a long time ago, was my mornings are mine. I don't know if you've heard of Miracle Morning from Hal Elrod, but he more or less has these 6 things that you should do every morning. Now, do I hit all 6 of them every morning? Absolutely not. But do I somewhat try to combine these 6 things, being silence, affirmation, visualization, reading, exercise, and scribing? I tried to do a combination of those 6 in some fashion, just to start my day off on a positive note for myself, for my groundedness. And I think that along with that, one of my things that falls in there too is getting my boys up and ready for school in the morning. While that might obviously sound like a task at hand, it's also special time that I get to have with my boys. Especially my oldest, because he gets up a little bit earlier too. So we'll either do a little work with his workbook and work on letters and numbers, or I'll sit with him as he's maybe watching a show or getting ready. But really taking that time in those mornings for me to take care of me and my family before getting started into the day. So that's one of them. The second kind of hones in on the leadership. What's the one thing I focus on? And it's that confidence is key. And especially for women, that can be something that we're constantly working on and towards, because you'll have things like imposter syndrome sinking in. And the thing that helps me is it doesn't necessarily matter what position you've held per se as you're coming into roles and growing as a leader, but it has everything to do with how you have educated yourself and how you're committing and disciplining your everyday efforts to continue to educate yourself, whether it's talking with mentors, being curious about topics and researching them, books, podcasts, you name it, because it's through education and that curiosity, you're able to open your mind and discover something new and be a little bit more confident in how you're engaging and interacting about certain topics or situations. And it just allows for a little bit more room as you're navigating through. And then I think the last thing, I joke about this with a lot of people, but I come from a predominantly sales background, and every situation for me, no matter what I'm doing, internal, external, collaborative, whatever it might be, I'm always trying to close the loop and continue the progression forward. So always be closing is a phrase I use regularly. But I just can't help it, right? We want to see the task at hand, or, the evolution of a strategy all the way through, right? Letting it run its course, letting things percolate, ensuring that they do not fester, but having more or less that tenacity to complete the tasks at hand, do that tactical blocking and tackling, but also giving enough of that breathing room for things to go through their full cycle so that you have enough data to make those informed decisions. So, letting things, I guess, play throughout their course and ensuring that you're closing the loop on it so that you can move on and execute on the next.
Yeah, it's always wise to close everything off, close off one task before you really go and start doing another one. Otherwise, sometimes you get crossover, you get confusion. And I think sometimes, especially at the team, they might become confused because they're not quite sure what they're meant to be doing if one task isn't being closed first. So having closure meetings or whatever they're called these days, I'm not really sure, but just to close everything off. But so that's a really good strategy, Chrissy. Thank you so much for sharing that. Where can people find you if they want to know more about you?
Oh, yeah. So people can find me on LinkedIn. So Chrissy, CHRISSY, Clower, KLAUER, McGarry, MCGARRY. So I'm on LinkedIn. I also am on medium.com and Instagram as well, Chrissy Clower McGarry. So you can find me in those 3 places. And if you'd like to learn more about the defense tech space and what Second Front does, you can come to www.secondfront.com.
Wonderful. And I ask all my guests this: if you have some words of wisdom or something that you'd like to share with our audience, what would that be?
It would be lead it better than you found it. Yeah. Anytime you come into a situation, there's always opportunities to learn and grow and make it better and evolve. And that's one of the reasons why I love being at a startup. Nothing is meant to be set in stone. Everything is meant to receive feedback and iterations so that you can continue to better for the individuals coming in, for the industry that's ever changing. So to come in with that positive approach of looking at things with an opportunity and really thinking through how you might continue to lead better than you found it when you first stepped into the role.
I like that, lead better than you found it. I think that's great. I'm going to write that up and put it on the bottom of my computer screen.
Thank you.
and read that every single day. I think it's great. Chrissy, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for giving up your time today, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
As do I. Thank you, Rose.
You've been listening to Talking with the Experts, hosted by Rose Davidson. Make sure you have a look at our back catalogue over at talkingwiththeexperts.com, and be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't miss out on any episode. We look forward to your company next time. Talking with the Experts.